Welcome to CommunityForce's Exploring Higher Ed, a series of discussions with various thought leaders and other professional voices, talking on a range of topics relating to the higher education industry. I'm Sarah Sohail, and we're glad you could join us today. In this episode, we sat down with Dr. Miles K. Davis, Dean of the Harry F. Byrd School of Business at Shenandoah University, to discuss some of the challenges and opportunities universities and students alike are faced with today. We explore some of the financial realities and critical decisions students and their families face today, the important role that scholarships and having the means to access them play in the student's academic future, and the risks that are involved with students carrying high debt. Your feedback and comments are always welcome, and we invite you to connect with us directly or through our social media channels. Until then, enjoy. Hi, I'm Sarah Sohail with CommunityForce, and we're here in the heart of Shenandoah Valley speaking with Dr. Miles Davis. Dr. Miles K. Davis is the Dean of the Harry F. Byrd Jr. School of Business and the George Edward Durrell Chair of Management. As Dean, he provides leadership and strategic direction for the business school and serves as its chief officer with primary responsibility for enhancing its regional, national, and international leadership in education. Prior to becoming the Dean of the Business School in July 2012, Dr. Davis served as the founding director for the Institute of Entrepreneurship at the Harry F. Byrd Jr. School of Business. Today, he continues to teach courses on entrepreneurship, as well as conduct research and publish on the intersection of religion and entrepreneurship. Dr. Davis is actively engaged with the business community and serves on several boards, which include the Chamber of Commerce, Inova Loudoun Hospital, and the Small Business Development Center, First Bank, and the Amana Mutual Fund. He is the host of an award-winning radio show on small business and is a prolific speaker and lecturer of international acclaim. Dr. Davis earned his doctorate degree in organizational behavior and management from the George Washington University, his master's degree in human resource development from Bowie State University, and his bachelor's degree in communications from Duquesne University. Having traveled to over 60 countries, he enjoys experiencing new cultures as well as gaining a broad perspective on business and its impact on societies throughout the world. Widely recognized as a leading authority on entrepreneurship, Dr. Davis's life work focuses on the areas of integrity, values, and principles within the business world, doing well by doing good. Dr. Davis, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
I'm happy to do it, Sarah.
Great. So in the past few years, CommunityForce has worked with several universities and foundations, helping them with some of their challenges surrounding scholarship and grants management. Through this work, we discovered that scholarship search today is very difficult. This past summer, we've launched a new initiative called Scholar Swag, which brings access to funding opportunities to scholars easily and quickly. So today, we'd like to discuss the challenges surrounding the cost of college education, the financial challenges for scholars, not only seeking to enter college, but the effect upon graduating, and anything else our discussion may bring to light.
Sure, not a problem.
Right. The gap between the cost of higher education and the economic means for scholars and their loved ones to cover these costs has been widely reported in the media lately, and surely it's on the minds of every university. In fact, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation reported that over $1 trillion have been taken out in student loan debt. So, is this causing colleges to become more concerned or more involved with assisting students in financing? And if so, what does that involvement look like?
Yeah. So let me step back a little bit and parse that numbers, because people need to clearly understand what is occurring. So when they say that there's $1 trillion in student debt, the expansion of student debt is the result of more and more students pursuing higher education. The actual debt burden has not substantially increased. So if you looked at the data, you'll see that it's probably increased for about $4,000, and whereas the average public institution student after 4 years is probably graduating with about $29,000 in debt. And it's important to understand that. Now, let me be clear. There are cases where people take out substantially more. And there is a mood in this country where we're placing lack of emphasis on education by evidence by public funds spent on that. So in the past week, as a result of a senator who put a hold on funding for the Perkins loans, which were designed for low-income students. It makes it harder for people in middle and low income to access education. At the same time, yes, the price of education is becoming more expensive. Yes. To begin to go to your question, and then how do parents afford that? And yes, we can always take out loans, but at the time when I went to school, I venture to say I'm substantially older than you are. There were low interest federally backed loans. A lot of those programs have stopped, or they've become commercial, or they've become profit centers. So thereby they're not low interest loans. And the need for scholarships have become much more important. In addition to that, the shift has been away from need-based scholarships, which are based upon the financial standing of the student, to merit-based scholarships. Right. And what's interesting about that people need to understand is that there's a shift in education for funding of those who least need the money for school.
Oh, that's interesting.
Now think about this for a second. So there's something, and I'll spare you all the details. There's something called level 1 students, and there's something called level 6 students. Level 1 students are students who have the highest grades and highest GPA. Level 6 students are those who have the lowest grades, lowest GPA. The biggest correlation at both those levels is family income. Now, you need to put that into what you just asked, which is that those with high GPAs and high SATs will get scholarship money, or they'll get grant money. They're associated with those at the highest income levels. Those at the lowest income levels will also have poor grades and will not receive money for education. And so what I like about what you're talking about with Scholar Swag and what universities have to address overall is that, quite frankly, there's probably a grant or a scholarship for almost anything that you're pursuing.
Sure.
You just have to know where to look and go to find it. And so you're providing a place to do that. And I spent this weekend with a parent that was actually going through this, and her daughter wants to go into a STEM field. And so she was going through looking for scholarships and found out what she had not realized. And she was going through this big book. And then writing notes on a note card. You seen this book?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck? So she's going through this book, writing notes on a note card. Apparently very inefficient to me, but she's going through writing these notes on these note cards. And I just said, you need to search for scholarship money for women in STEM.
Yeah.
And she had not even thought about this. And so it didn't even dawn on her that there might be a specific program set aside for women.
Right.
There are programs set aside for the Knights of Columbus. There are scholarships set aside for Rotary members. Yep. Anything that you can belong to, there's something, but they don't know where to get it.
Right.
And so on one hand, to fully answer your question, universities are concerned because we realize that we don't want to price ourselves out of business.
Yes.
It's becoming increasingly expensive to go to school. And so you need to understand that. And on the other side, there is money available to help make that transition and ease that burden a little bit, because we don't want people leaving school with so much debt that the decision that they take about their employment is in regards to how much they're going to get paid. Because we should have a society, and this has to do with a worldview, and I understand that, but we should have a society where people can pursue their goals and aspirations independent of having to make enough money to pay back loans. Right. Because if that's the case, then everybody just needs to go and become an engineer or become an other high-paying job. But what about those who want to become artists or want to become other things in society, and if the cost is so high and they wind up so much in debt, they can't even choose to pursue that.
Right.
Even teachers.
Sure.
I mean, some people say, we don't need artists, but at least need teachers.
We do, yeah.
And so it's important. So universities are aware, and I will tell you, I'm proud, if I may say this, I'm proud to be associated with a university that it keeps its eye on that. And even when we had to look at whether we were going to raise tuition, we wanted to make sure that that was minimal, and we kept it under 2%. And that is only to help offset, because we're a private or independent college, and our entire operating budget comes, 80% of our operating budget comes from what we get in tuition. I know it's a long-winded answer to your question, but it's interesting because people hear data and they things that come out, and it needs to be parsed to understand what is actually occurring. And just the final point on this, as I mentioned, that part of the increase in debt is the increase in number of students getting degrees.
Yes.
But we're entering into a society where degrees are needed more and more often. So,
because college is more expensive, it's harder for people to find those funds to do it. A lot of students take out, they go to school part-time and they work part-time to offset the cost. How do you think that factors into the whole socialization aspect?
Well, first of all, let's deal with the reality. Sometimes it's necessary to do that.
It is, yes.
You need to earn money to do things, but I will tell you that it would be better if a person could focus on their studies.
Yes.
And so to the extent they can find funds that allow them to fully participate, it has better outcomes. I was a person that had to work.
Sure.
Fortunately, I took a job that allowed me to study. So again, I'm just using my story as an example of how things work. And I took a job as a security guard. Took a job as an overnight security guard. Right. And so, so I was sitting in this building being bored and hoping that nobody broke into the building.
Yeah.
I got a chance to study. But I talk to kids. As a matter of fact, even outside my door right now, I can hear there's a student. I know that he's working at Dollar General.
Okay.
He doesn't get a chance to study while he's working.
Yes.
There are students who are working over at the mall. There are students that are working at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Great jobs. Nothing wrong with working while you're going to school. Mm-hmm. However, it does impact the ability to fully participate in what I think is a special time in your life.
Yes.
That you're coming out of high school, you're in college, in that college experience. No matter whether you're coming from, as I did, the inner city, Philadelphia, or as somebody else I know who's here, a place called Frog Eye, Virginia.
Okay.
It really is a Frog Eye, Virginia.
Wow.
Yeah, right. I think there are about 10 people there, and I think their family lives in a compound of 8 of those people. Or if you're coming from Pakistan, to come here and participate in that life is a special time to do. And I wish that students didn't have to work. I understand if you want to earn things, and I realize that, people always say you got to work and struggle for what you want to pay for. But if there was a way in which scholarships or grants were set up to subsidize and help people. And then, now I will say this on the other end of this. I know you didn't ask that question, but the same token, I think that those who have benefited from such things should give back to those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so I know that your son has recently entered college. What was his experience like? And your experience as a parent, going through the scholarship search? Did the college help out? What frustrations did you see? So
I have to boast a little bit right now because my daughter also just secured full scholarship to go to University of Delaware. So my son's at St. Louis University. So, but again, I want to go back to look at what Dad does.
Yeah.
So Dad understands the process.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of things that they talk about behind the scenes.
Sure.
So again, going back to what we talked about. So with my son, he wanted to study engineering. He wanted to play soccer.
Okay.
So we developed a grid of schools that had engineering and had soccer. Mm-hmm. My daughter wanted to play soccer and wanted to study physical therapy, develop a grid. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things also is that understanding how the system works. What the student needs to do is to prepare themselves for as many options as possible.
Right.
And so I told my son that as much time as you spend on the soccer field, you have to spend in books.
Okay.
Because if you're going to be recruited by a Division I NCAA school, they like you to have about 3.5 GPA. You have to have good grades because the work of a student athlete isn't easy.
Yes.
Same thing for my daughter. You have to have options. You have to have the grades because you're going to be at school and you're going to be going half the time for your meets during your season.
Right.
So the process was to do the research on the schools and then find out what the school offered. Now, in our case, there's a combination of both athletic in academic money. And so it's important for people to understand that unless you're going to an Ivy League school, which does not give academic money, it gives need money, that the school's going to want to see your grades. I mean, it's hard to get any. Let me just put this frankly, with rare exception, if you're a C student, you're going to pay full freight to go to college. You can get in college, but you're going to pay for it. If you can improve your grades, be a little better, and can demonstrate need, then there'll be a bunch of programs that will open up for you. And that's part of what I found out in the search for my children, is that you have to keep up your grades, because even in athletics, and again, both my kids play soccer, and there are 9 full scholarships for men's soccer and 13 for women. There are 22, 25 people on the team. Very few people get a full scholarship. And so what they do is that they break up the scholarships, and then they supplement that with academic money.
So it's just important to be as well-rounded as possible.
It's important that, from a start. But there are also scholarships, as you know, in terms of that search that will provide you money for social activities, organizations like the Rotary, some others that if you're giving service or doing those types of things. But it's important for parents to understand that to help their children is that they have to help them prepare academically, because that's where the funds are shifted to. And then going back to what we said earlier, there were 99.9% of the time on any app, and whether it's the one that you're going to develop or have developed, or whether somebody else developed, they're going to ask you, what's your GPA? And if your GPA isn't in that higher range above a 3.0, and that's at the minimum,
it'll limit your opportunities.
It'll limit your opportunities. But this also, just for the record, this also goes back to your question, which is why this is associated with income, about in regards to those who work. Because I was one of those students. I had a low GPA coming out of high school because I was working to support my family. And so that impacts your ability to spend time studying, or even impacts your ability to do all the social programs that you want to do, that people look for in college applications. But there'll be an institution somewhere where you can go, and it's best to create as many options for yourself as possible.
So you talked a little bit about how there's a access problem to scholarships, and that these students need to be able to access scholarships more easily. And that's kind of what we're addressing with Scholar Swag, is growing awareness for these scholarship opportunities, that they are out there and helping reach students more easily. What do you think needs to be in a platform like that to get to students?
That's a very good question. And again, I think about that mother that I saw this weekend who was going through a book, and that's clearly inefficient. To go there and spend time to do it. I'm also thinking about a story that I heard about a student who was able to secure $1 million in scholarships. And so, and I think about what's the gap, because the one mother I talked to, she had managed to find 3,000. So what's the difference between that person that found 3,000 and that person that found $1 million? And so you can say work and diligence, whatever, but there needs to be an easier way to do this. And I think that one of the things that could contribute to that is a centralized database. And so, for instance, a lot of schools now have what they call a common app, where you can apply for multiple schools at the same time. Why not apply for scholarships? And in this world of technology, why can't somebody develop an algorithm that goes through all the boxes that you are, and then say, aha, as I look at you and I'm not sure what your particular ethnic background may be or whatever, but if you check a box that says that you're a woman, if you check a box that says that you're this, if you check a box that says that you're that, then why can't there be an algorithm that automatically takes me to the sources to do that? And then I can find, or in the case of universities, why not be a common app that says, here's the things that the students may be qualified for. And I think that part of that happens within the university, but again, there are also outside sources that may be willing to contribute to such a program, foundations and things. And so all of this stuff and anything that can be digitized is being digitized.
Yeah.
I can go to the internet and search for the most obscure thing in the world.
You'll find it.
And you'll find it. Some things I shouldn't find there, but you can find anything on the internet. And so why can't the same concept be applied for scholarship money?
Sure.
That a company like yours say, okay, I have this here, and then, there's a keyword search that goes out and pulls it in and makes it easy. Because I will tell you, part of the challenge here is that the people who often need this the most are the least sophisticated in trying to find it.
Yeah.
So we have to make it easy for people.
Yeah.
We have to make it so
as simple as possible.
So they can throw out applicant information. That's the key right there.
Okay.
And I've worked with a lot of immigrant parents. I've worked with a lot of first generation parents. It's hard for them to navigate this world.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Exploring Higher Ed. If you have any suggestions, questions, or other feedback, feel free to comment below. For further information on CommunityForce, please visit us at www.communityforce.com. To learn more about Scholar Swag, visit www.scholarswag.com.